Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Ohio.
The Royals' strengths were on full display last night in the ninth inning. Late game heroics from Eric Hosmer, and one of the best defensive plays of the season from the middle of the infield. Lost in the shuffle, a dominant pitching performance from Trevor Bauer, but he wound up the tough luck loser. Corey Kluber will take the mound today, looking to stop the Tribe's losing streak at home. Next on Sports Time Ohio. A warm, sunny afternoon in downtown Cleveland, a perfect matinee day for baseball as the Indians wrap up the homestand, trying to avoid a sweep at the hands of the Kansas City Royals. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Well, the Indians are in a spot that they haven't been in a long time. It's been 40 years since the Tribe last lost 8 straight at home. And one thing we know for sure, the Royals, or any team in baseball for that matter, is not going to take any pity on them. And we saw Eric Hosmer go down and get a big hit to win the game last night for KC, something he's done all season long against the Indians.
Well, he's having a terrific month of July. He's hotter than a firecracker right now. So if you don't want to throw him anything close to the plate. He had a couple of hits to left field yesterday and then got the big game winner, a home run with 2 outs in the ninth. A shocker. Went down and picked up a curveball, had a great play defensively. He is on fire right now. 11-game hitting streak, over 500. You can see how clutch he is from the 7th inning on. And against the Indians, he's turned into another Miguel Cabrera. 5 homers, 19 RBIs. He's 1 RBI away from Mike Sweeney, who has the most in 1 year as a Royal against the Indians.
It was a competitive game last night, but once again, the Indians, the only run they scored came on a couple of stolen bases by Michael Bourne on an errant throw that went into left field. So the task again falls to today's starting pitcher, which will be Corey Kluber, to try to keep the Royals off the board as long as he can.
Well, we've been saying this all year. You hope to get some runs for Kluber, but Kluber this year against the Kansas City Royals is 0-3. Not that he's pitched poorly, but they have been much more aggressive against him this year because last year he dominated the Royals. So he's going to go out and have to have a very good game. He's 0-6 against the Central this year. That's amazing in its own right. Trying to get win number 1. He'll be matched up against former Indian Jeremy Guthrie, 1-2 against the Central this year, and 7-6 in a high ERA.
All right, when we come back, Andre Knott will join us down on the field to give us the fallout from the trade of David Murphy last night. That's coming up next right here on Sports Time Ohio. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. and Lindor. Hosmer rips one a deep right field, and the Royals take the lead. That's unbelievable. I am absolutely stunned that that's an out. Steps on the bag, double play, ends the game. So, welcome to game number 100 on this season as the Indians try to snap a 6-game losing streak. They've lost their last 8 in a row here at home. Yesterday came the news that the Indians had traded David Murphy to the Angels. It didn't become official until the middle of the ball game. Murphy went to the Angels in exchange for a minor league infielder. Let's get on to Andre Knott, who has the latest on how the trade is playing in the clubhouse.
Well, it's been difficult in the clubhouse because David Murphy, not only a good guy, which we all told everyone every single day, but he was a guy that showed up and a guy that hit the ball well. And Brandon Moss said it well last night. He goes, look, for the way we've struggled offensively, we can't afford to lose someone like David Murphy, or somebody's going to have to pick it up. Speaking of picking it up, Tyler Holt gets the first opportunity to pick up some of the slack David Murphy leaves behind. Tyler Holt has had a decent season down in AAA Columbus, and he's a guy that Terry Francona said will bring energy to the lineup, can play all 3 positions in the outfield. And as I said, he's played well in Columbus, and he knows this is a great opportunity for him. As we were told last night by the general manager, the void left by David Murphy will give opportunities to other guys to get at bats. Their job is to take advantage of it. Today, Tyler Holt gets the first stab at it.
All right, we'll get a chance to see. We've seen Tyler Holt before. We'll see how long he gets his opportunity for. Hopefully he can do something. Certainly the offense of the Indians need it.
Our window system's game time temperature 88 degrees. It is very warm, rather humid. Not much of a breeze at all. What wind we do have will be carrying the ball. It should carry well today to all fields, I would imagine.
Just another gorgeous day here. This whole homestand has been just spectacular weather-wise.
Kansas City is a club that is streaking right now. They've won 4 in a row, 7 out of their last 10. They've opened up a 9-game lead now in the Central Division as Minnesota has dropped 3 in a row. The White Sox are also on a tear. They came to Cleveland and swept the Indians, and now they've run their win streak to 6 in a row. They're 2 games below the 500 mark now as the Tigers have fallen to 4th place in the AL Central. They've lost 3 in a row, and like Cleveland, 7 of their last 10 games. For the Indians, Rick, the problem remains offensively. They're not generating scoring chances. 6 times in 11 games since the All-Star break, they've scored 1 run or less.
Yeah, and you just can't win with one run. You know, I don't care what league you're in. You can't expect to pitch shutouts every night. And, you know, it's been the same theme every day here. It seems like they get the lead early, they get big innings, and they're not able to come back. Last night, it was not that way. It was a great pitch game by Trevor Bauer. They just couldn't overcome anything. And, you know, they didn't drive in a run, but they only scored 1 again. So you're going to have to go out, and they got to take it to them. I mean, there's nothing we can do. We're sick of talking about it. It's time for the hitters to start hitting, period.
2 starts ago, the Tribe scored 9 runs for Corey Kluber as he cruised to an easy win against the Cincinnati Reds. But his last time out, Zippo. They did not score a single run against the White Sox.
For the 6th time that he's been on a mound.
Ned Yost's starting lineup is brought to you by Toyota. Alcides Escobar leads it off, followed by Mike Moustakas. Kendrys Morales will bat 3rd. Eric Hosmer, the Indian killer this year, hitting cleanup. Alex Rios is 5th. Omar Infante bats 6th. Paulo Orlando gets the start in left field, hitting 7th. Drew Butera, a rare start behind the plate, hitting 8th, and Gerard Dyson will bat 9th.
And Corey Kluber is today's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher. Kluber making his 22nd start, looking for his 6th win. He suffered his 11th loss in his last start against the White Sox, gave up 6 runs. He's done that 3 times this year, but he did pitch 7 innings in that ball game. It looked like he just ran out of gas when he went out there into the 8th. He's pitched 3 times against Kansas City this year. He's 0-3. He's gone 20 innings, struck out 21, but has given up 15 runs. They've been aggressive off him early. We'll see how they fare today against Corey Kluber. Let's set the defense behind him. It is brought to you by Chrysler. It'll be Holt in left, Bourne in center, Moss over in right, Urshela at 3rd, Lindor at short, Kipnis is at 2nd, Santana is at 1st, Gomes is doing the catching.
Tom Woodring has the plate. Eric Cooper at first. Lance Barksdale at second. The crew chief, Gary Cederstrom, is down at third. And we're just about ready to go. Kluber winds, and the first pitch is up and in, ball one to Alcides Escobar, who is just 1 for 9 in the series. And a foul off to the right. 1-1. Again, Escobar just kind of shoots one the other way, and he falls behind now 1-2. Corey Kluber, the reigning American League Cy Young Award winner, making his 22nd start of the year. Chopper. Kluber's off the mound, and a quick flip for out number one. Keys to the game are brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Beware of the Haas. He has hurt the Indians all year long and get a lead. I think our producer's getting a little punch drunk. He's quick and to the point today. Nothing.
Well, that's fine. There's not much you can say.
Yeah,
let's go. I would maybe would have maybe one key. Win. That's it.
Okay. Win it is. It was, who was the coach? Who was the coach? I'm trying to think of the guy. I think it was in the NFL. You play to win the game. Herm Edwards. That's right. Oh, that was one of the best. You play to win the game.
He's right.
Well, it is a bottom line business. This is the professional league. The 1-0 pitch to Mike Moustakas is hit hard, but look who's out there. Jason Kipnis with the shift on throws him out. 2 down. Henry Morales has gone 3 for 8 in the series.
He gets moved up to the number 3 hole today because Lorenzo Cain gets a day off against Kluber.
Yeah, both Cain and Salvador Perez out of the lineup.
And, when you win the first 2 games, you can afford, okay, I'm going to rest a couple of my guys. After today's game, they will head up to Toronto for a 4-game series.
Yeah, it's been pretty evident that Ned Yost, like every manager who's probably ever been in charge of a club, you're never going to rest until you see the X next to your team's name in the standings, which means you've clinched. But he does have a 9-game lead, and you have to be somewhat judicious about how you use your guys. You want to keep them fresh the whole year long. But we saw the way he's used his bullpen in the first 2 games of the series. He's not thinking about, well, we can stay away from this guy. No, he's trying to win every single game.
Well, I don't blame him. You put that X next to your team, and then you'll have time to rest if you need it.
The 2-1. It stays fair. Santana stays with it, takes it himself, and Corey Kluber works a 1-2-3 first inning. The Indians are coming to bat. Take a look at the Indians starting lineup for Terry Francona, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Jason Kipnis leading off. How about this series he's having? 6 for 8. And he leads the majors now in hits. Francisco Lindor bats second. Michael Brantley is third. Santana, Moss, and Gomes in the middle. Giovanni Urshela, Michael Bourne, and Tyler Holt rounded out.
Jeremy Guthrie is today's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher for the Kansas City Royals. His record 7-6, a .535 earned run average. He has made 2 starts against the Indians this year. Both of them have resulted in no decisions. He went 5 innings his first game, allowed 4 runs. He went 5 2/3 innings his second game, allowed 1 run. But no decisions. In his career, he's 5-5 against the Tribe.
Kipnis takes. It's a called strike. He's third in batting average now, behind Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder. 128 hits, 3 better than Fielder in the AL. This is bloop. Might drop in. Down the line, foul ball.
Let's check out that Royals defense now that we have an opportunity, which is brought to you by Chrysler. It's Orlando, Dyson, and Rios in the outfield. It's Moustakas, Escobar, Infante, and Hosmer on the infield, with Butera getting the call today behind the dish.
One ball and 2 strikes. And a line drive base hit in the left field. Scooped by Orlando. And Kipnis is aboard with his 7th hit in the series. Now 129 on the year. Well, yesterday, Rick, the Indians were off and running from the get-go. Let's go down to Andre and see if we'll see more of that today.
I think we absolutely will. And talking to Terry Francona and Mike Sarbaugh, the third base coach, he goes, look, that was part of the meeting that the players had. They said, look, it's time for us to take it upon ourselves to be more aggressive and make things happen. Jason Kipnis stood up and said that. Michael Brantley said it, and they said, look, our actions have to speak louder than our words. That's why we saw that yesterday, and we should see it again today.
Well, they picked a good guy to start running on, Chris Young. It was like a track meet yesterday. We'll see if Jeremy Guthrie's move or the way he holds runners is any different. Of course, you don't have Perez behind the plate for Kansas City, who's an outstanding catch and throw guy, although they stole on the pitcher yesterday.
Upstairs.
Guthrie much quicker to the plate than Young was yesterday.
Now, yesterday the Indians got after it with 6 stolen bases,
well,
leading to their only run of the night.
And it started in the first inning when Kipnis took off, and it took a perfect throw to get him. He was thrown out, and then they continued to do it.
Just fouled on the right field line, not by much, maybe a foot or less.
Well, it went down there. It was awfully close. Boy, oh boy, inside a foot, no doubt. That was by inches.
Shoots it in the hole. A base hit by Lindor between third and short. And the Indians with back-to-back singles to open the game.
Really nice job by just protecting and putting the ball in play. He had to reach. I'm not sure that was even a strike. After he pulled one down the line, look at him hit that ball. That ball was down, probably off the plate, and stayed on it to get a base hit. Good job by Lindor. So the Indians, good start. Back-to-back hits to lead this ball game off.
Opportunity to jump on him early. Michael Brantley. Takes a strike. Brantley 2 for 6 in the series. Royals have walked him 3 times. The 0-1. Oh, caught the inside corner, and Brantley finds himself in the hole 0-2.
Well, for some reason, that doesn't seem to bother Michael Brantley a lot of the times. He's a good 2-strike hitter. He has confidence in himself. He can put it in play in a good enough eye to spit on pitches that are just off the plate.
I suppose it depends on the individual, but you've said in the past when a team is struggling, you get that first hit and everybody else just kind of relax, takes a breath, and all of a sudden you can maybe have a big inning or a good game offensively. If that hit doesn't come early in an inning, does the next guy go up there and kind of swallow hard and go, oh boy, here we go, now I've got to do it?
The way it's been going, the way they've been swinging the bat, I would say yes. You know, if someone gets one early, it should take a little pressure off everybody where they don't feel they have to do it. But if they don't, then it starts building. You know, and that's the way it's gone since the All-Star break. You mentioned 6 times, 1 run out of the 11 games we played. So, yes, it starts earlier than it should. It's just a matter of having confidence. Hitting is a confident thing, and so is baseball.
Well, that's the crazy thing. We've documented how many opportunities. It's not like they don't get any base runners, no hits. They've had chances.
Every day. Every day they get good opportunities. They just haven't been able to capitalize.
It seems like the first couple of innings, and at least the last 4 or 5 games, they've left 5-6 runners on base.
Well, they had great opportunity against Chris Young. They had 4 runners in the first couple innings, and he was struggling to throw strikes. They had 6 base runners against Edison Volquez in the first 3 innings, and you could only cash in the 1 run, and that was a solo home run leading off the inning.
Yeah.
So the opportunities are there. It's just a matter of believing and getting a base hit.
Brantley strikes out. He really went in early in the count and then came back in there to finish him off.
No swinging room. He just stayed inside, inside, inside. He didn't give many breathing room. And he forced him to swing because it's a good pitch. Even if it was inside, it's too close to take with 2 strikes. That's just an excellent pitch by Guthrie.
Because he proved to Brantley that he could hit that pitch for a strike, that's why it forces you to swing there, right?
Yeah, that's right. He got ahead of mode, too, and Michael was in the protect mode.
Carlos Santana looks at a first pitch strike. Off speed. Santana 2 hits in the series. Now that pitch missed inside, and it's 1-1. So far this year, Santana has had exactly 100 at-bats with a runner in scoring position. And he has 20 hits. Now, you're not expecting him to have 50 hits, but...
No, but you hope you do better. You're in the middle part of the lineup. That's what you're in the middle part for, is to drive them in. You know, it's not hit. Foul. You don't have to drive in 3 either, which he tries to do a lot of the time. We'll take 1 at a time. That's always good.
Just imagine the impact that 15 more hits in these situations would make on this entire club. Not to mention for Santana himself.
Well, that's true with anybody. When you got this Kansas City club that's one of the best with 2 out base hits, that keep innings going, and those are confidence builders.
And I mentioned that too, Rick, because 15 more hits would give him 35, would give him a 350 average. That would be 10th best in the league. So that wouldn't even put him among the very best, but it will at least get him in the top 10. maybe 10 more hits in those kinds of situations. Maybe that's good for 5 more wins.
But you never
knows?
Know. Everybody, you have to make adjustments as a hitter. I don't care who you are and where you hit in the lineup. If you don't make adjustments, the same thing will keep happening. That's what we've seen.
The payoff pitch. Ball 4. And the bases are loaded. And the batter will be Brandon Moss.
Normally, that's a good thing. But this year for the Indians, it hasn't been a good thing. But here you go. First inning opportunity, 1 out. Bases loaded. Great opportunity to get on the board and play from in front.
Boy, it just seems like if we're not talking about the individual numbers of Brantley and Kipnis, there isn't a whole lot of numbers that you can look at with this team and say, well, there's a bright light. There's a silver lining.
Yeah. It's collectively.
Missed inside.
It's a team. There's no doubt. You have to do it as a team. You take it, the good with the bad.
You mentioned the bases loaded for the Indians this year. 10 hits in 75 at-bats with the bases loaded. No 1-1. And for Brandon Moss, just 1. 1 out of 8. As always, Andre was in the clubhouse after the game last night, and Moss in particular was one very frustrated player. People might look at him as an easy target because he hasn't produced, and that was obviously one of the reasons they brought him here. But it doesn't lessen the fact that he wears it every night. I mean, it's not like he's like, oh well, no big deal. I mean, he's as frustrated and just, I think, lost as any of these guys right now.
It goes to show you how he's going. That ball was in, and it hits the knob of the bat. Doesn't hit him in the hand or the wrist where you get a run there. It fouls off the end of his bat.
He's in the hole, a ball and 2 strikes. Missed outside. In last night's game in particular, not only did he have opportunities at the plate, but he had the great play in right field where he caught it and then slammed into the wall and the ball pops loose. And leads to Kansas City's first run of the night. The 2-2. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out. 2 down. If you missed it, this was the play last night. Terrific effort. But on his collision with the wall, the ball popped out, and it went for a triple for Lorenzo Cain, who ended up scoring when Hosmer blooped a single into left field, the next man up. All that happening with 2 outs in the inning. In for a strike. I guess in a nutshell, that game was a microcosm of the year for Brandon Moss. It's not that it's a lack of effort. He's given you the effort, but he just can't seem to get anything to go right for him.
Catch a break.
See if Yan Gomes can pick his teammates up with 2 down.
Get a pitch down that he likes and shoot it to right center. And he's going to have to battle down 0-2. I know Gomes missed 6 weeks into the year, and here's a guy that's really struggled with runners in scoring position, hitting 119. 5 for 42. So you can just tell that these guys are pressing every time they come to the plate.
Hit him, and the Indians will take the lead.
Oh, boy, that's a break. You talk about Guthrie. He wanted to go inside. He went a little too far, and the Indians get out of board by a hit batter.
Last night it was an error that got the Indians their only run of the game. Today, a hit batter forces home their first run, and they lead it 1-0. So Kipnis, who started the game with a base hit to left field, he scores. Base is still loaded with 2 down now for Giovanni Urshela. Urshela has very quietly put together a 7-game hitting streak. High fly ball, left center field. Dyson, the center fielder, is there, and the inning is over. 1 run, 2 hits, 3 men left on base. The Indians lead it 1-0.
With MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or your tablet, you can stay connected with live radio, broadcast, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Eric Hosmer looks at a ball 1 up high. Arcia in the driver's seat, which is exactly where Hosmer's been against the Indians this year. 19 runs driven in.
What's wrong with that pitch?
Kluber thought that was a strike. He had a long look.
It should be. It wasn't high. We've seen pitches called down in the strike zone, but where's this? This is belled high.
Yeah, that's.
How can that not be a strike?
Chop towards first. Kluber's on the bag to take the flip one away. Alex Rios 0 for 6 in the series. Kluber's 1-0 pitch. Swing and a miss. Only a couple days left now before the Major League Baseball trading deadline. The 1-1. And I think what's interesting is that you've heard differing reports on who's available, who might be made available, teams that are sort of, are we in it, are we out of it kind of situation.
Right on the borderline.
1-2 pitch. Wow, Rios, I think, thought maybe that was going to be strike 3 called. The Tigers are one of those teams at 48-52 now and losing 3 in a row. Everybody expects them to sell. Maybe David Price is on the move, but the reports are that they're not going to trade him. The 2-2. And so the other big piece, I think, after Johnny Cueto got traded is Cole Hamels of Philadelphia, but there might be some no-trade clauses in his contract that are obstacles. Sure. So a team like the Dodgers, there's a report now that they're going after Matt Latos of the Marlins.
Okay.
Which would tell you that they've tried and they can't pry either one of those other two guys loose.
Yeah, work the deal out. There's so much that goes into that. The thing that drives me nuts, they've been talking since October or November about Cole Hamels going everywhere. Mm-hmm. That's all it's been. Yeah. So, give it a rest. You get sick of hearing it after a while.
You're right.
If it happens, it happens.
He's been traded since last November.
To every team, and then they even made teams up he's going to.
The Hiroshima Carp have acquired him. There's a called third strike, and finally Rios is rung up officially. 2 down in the inning. First strikeout today for Kluber.
It's going to be our Circle K strikeout. First one for Kluber on the afternoon. There's a nice breaking ball right there. Gets the call. Out number 2.
Here's Omar Infante. Some people who follow Kansas City felt like with the acquisition of Ben Zobrist, Infante would lose a lot of playing time. The way we understand it, Ned Yost plans to use Zobrist more in left field.
On an everyday basis.
And Gerard Dyson would kind of drift back to the role that he's filled mostly in his time with Kansas City. That is the extra outfielder, pinch runner off the bench late in the ball game. And then once Alex Gordon comes back and is healthy enough to play every day, then Zobrist goes back to his role, which is super utility guy. He can play anywhere.
Nothing wrong with that.
Swing and a miss. Infante down on strikes. Kluber strikes out a pair to end the second inning. 6 up, 6 down. Indians on top 1-0. Bourne will lead it off for Cleveland. Rick, maybe last night was just a perfect storm. You had a pitcher on the mound who doesn't hold runners well, slow to the plate. But, boy, it was fun to see Michael Bourne get on the bases and create some excitement, some energy.
Do what they brought him in here to do, and that's, be aggressive. They brought him in to be the leadoff man, steal bases, do his thing, and he really hasn't been able to do that with leg injuries. But you're right, it's fun to watch.
Deep center field, it's over the head of Dyson. It short hops the wall, and Bourne is into second base with a leadoff double. 2 hits last night, and he starts today's game with a ringing double to straightaway center field. And not easy to hit a ball over Dyson's head either.
Well, see where the pitch is. That's a fastball down Broadway. And Bourne put a good swing on it, drives it over the head of Dyson. And you're right. I mean, you got to smoke that ball on the line to get it over his head. Bourne, he did. Gets his 11th double. Now, leadoff double, nobody on. Second straight inning, leadoff man aboard.
Tyler Holt. Royals looking for a bunt. They pinch in at the corners. Bunts it right back to Guthrie, who's going to go to third, and he's got Bourne on a rundown. Moustakas running him back, and they run him over, and he's going to get third base.
Yeah, and then did they interfere with him? No, they got to go back. He's out of the baseline, and the guy's got to go back to first.
Okay.
I believe, unless there was interference.
You're right. I thought that's what the initial. I thought that's what Gary Cederstrom was originally signaling. He did a signal interference.
Did he?
So
Let's see.
He gives Bourne third base.
So then it's a dead ball. Let's see if he runs back. Does Moustakas interfere with him here? Yeah, he touched him.
Yep.
He touched him right there. He tried to jump over him. So dead ball. Bourne is awarded third base.
I'm not sure why Holt has to go back to first.
It's a dead ball right then and there. It doesn't matter.
And where he was at.
He advances. Bourne was going back to second anyway.
I got you. Okay.
So he gets third base. Holt back to first on the interference. So actually, it works out for the Indians. They had an out there and a defensive lapse.
All right, so it's scored, a sacrifice, and a fielder's choice. I thought maybe Moustakas would get an error, but no, I guess.
Well, it's interference.
Yeah, third on the interference call.
It is an error, but it's not on the,
Doesn't go down on the book.
Right, down in the books it's an error. It is. Bourne did a job of just making contact with one of the defenders. And Kansas City had it where they wanted him. They would have got Bourne out, and they would have had Holt at first base.
Jason Kipnis with a 2-0 count. Hit him. Wow. And Kipnis has a glance out at Guthrie because that ball was behind him. That's why he takes issue with it. And warnings issued to both dugouts.
Well, that's because it started the other night.
Butero walked Kipnis at least halfway down the line at first. Eric Cooper just making sure cooler heads prevail here.
Yeah, he couldn't get out of the way. That may go back to the other night when Anderson drilled Dyson.
And Kipnis is saying, when you throw it behind me, I'm calling that as intentional, basically, is what I think what his interpretation.
That's first night. That started right there. It was down. It was in the legs. Last night, here we go again. There's two of them. So, instead of maybe pitching around Kipnis or walking him, he just drilled him. And it was down. It was at the, the backside.
Yeah.
That's them taking care of what they have to take care of.
Bases are loaded. Nobody out, and Francisco Lindor at the plate. A swing and a miss. We've noticed with Lindor in particular, Rick, when he gets into these situations, they definitely back off, and he's been overly aggressive.
Absolutely.
Here's the 0-1 pitch, and Lindor, high fly ball center field. Dyson back. He'll make the catch, tagging, and coming home to score is Bourne. Holt tags and goes to third. 1 out in the inning. Lindor with his 16th RBI on the year. It's 2-0 Cleveland. And they have changed the official scoring decision, so there is an error charged to Mike Moustakas on the interference play, which
makes sense.
Said, initially I thought that would have been the decision, but now it is official. So first and third with 1 out for Michael Brantley. Brantley struck out his first time up, and in that at-bat, Guthrie went inside twice early in the at-bat and hit for strikes both times, so he got ahead of him. And then he was able to put him away with a pitch in off the plate. And now, complete opposite this time around. Brantley's ahead 2-0.
Well, he's changing his pattern here, but when you had runners on scoring position for Brantley last time, you're right, he pounded them in. So he's trying to be careful now. Let's see what he does with this 2-0 pitch. Because Brantley, he's going to be sitting on 1. They want to come. Here's that fastball in. He's going to go change up, breaking ball, fastball away.
Cleveland 2, Kansas City nothing. We're in the second.
That ball's down. Look for Brantley to shoot him to left center field.
Ooh. I think he was taking his shot to leave the yard.
Why wouldn't you? 2-0 count. You earned that right, man. He had a good swing. Got the fastball, too. Just if that was down just an inch.
The 2-1. That's where he hit for the strike early in that first at bat. This time he's off, and it's 3-1.
Now Michael's going to make an adjustment, and I think with Guthrie, he saw he had a good 2-0 swing on that fastball away, just missed it. Maybe a changeup here. Don't know. Michael will be looking for a heater. Good pitch. Came right back in there and hit this time.
Throw to first, they had him picked off. And Kipnis is calling back for Terry Francona. He believes Hosmer missed him with the tag. Eric Cooper made the call out at first on the pickoff attempt. Terry Francona looking back.
They're going to wait to see and get a replay. Let's take a peek here. He was going. You can't get picked off here.
Oh, I don't know. It might have looked.
Can't tell if the glove got him
from there. Did the glove jab him in the ribs before he got to the bag?
If it looked like it was at the right shoulder. Kipnis didn't feel it. They're waiting to get another replay or another look at it. And you only have so much time, but I think he's going to make, he's going to call. He want to go to the headsets.
Well, it's such a big spot early in the game right here.
Well, full count. 3-2, 2 outs. There's nowhere to go. You're not going to steal a base, so you can't get picked. But he took one step going to second base before the throw came over there. Now, it's going to be a matter of whether he touched him before his hand got to the bag, which on that last replay we didn't get a very good look at. Watch his right shoulder. See, he broke to second base. Here it comes. It's going to be up right around the number, right at that 2. We can't tell if it's there. Tough way to go right there. Tough way to tell. If he was called out, it's going to be tough to overturn it on just that look.
Yeah, our only hope is that there's another look somewhere.
Right. But Kipnis did come up and say he didn't touch me, so we'll see.
Indians scoring in the first when Gomes was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded to force in a run. Michael Bourne scores here in the second. And Bourne scores because he got to third base on the interference call on Mike Moustakas, which led to the sac fly from Francisco Lindor. So the Indians have a 2-0 lead, but with first and third and only one out, this is a critical call early in the game.
It sure is.
Well, I'm assuming by the length of the replay they had
more
angles than what we saw.
Come. He is out. He's out. He got picked off at a time you certainly can't afford to get picked off. So the call stands. The view that we had, we couldn't tell.
So 2 down. The ruling was that the call stands. I'm guessing there weren't many good angles. That's all I can figure. Took less than 2 minutes to review it. Now the payoff pitch to Brantley. Rip foul. Popped him up. Left field. Inning over. Indians get a run. After 2, they lead it 2-0. Cleveland, third inning. Paulo Orlando will lead it off for KC. Outside corner, a called strike. Lindor cuts it off, spins and throws, got him. Terrific play by the Tribe shortstop to take a hit away from Orlando. Showing exceptional range up the middle here.
Well, he gets it. He's going to do a spin move, make a nice accurate throw to get the first out of the inning.
That will bring up Drew Butera. Making his 13th start of the year.
I wonder of those 13, how many have been day games after night games to give Perez that extra day off. I'll bet a lot of them have been.
Fly ball right field. Moss will make the catch. 2 down. Our stat of the game brought to you by Buick. You see there Corey Kluber still with the worst run support in the American League. And the Indians are almost to that average. They've got 2 on the board early.
Well, you can't shut down. You got to keep it going.
Chop to first. Santana has it. It's going to be a quick inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Royals on 5 pitches. 2-0 Indians. Just a reminder as you enjoy a cold one to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. On a day like this, the cold ones probably coming fast and furious for some folks.
Guthrie has done that a number of times today at this point, going ahead, slow curveball, strike one just to get it over. Came back with it.
3 players converging, all blocking their eyes from the sun.
And they all called for it, too.
But it's the shortstop Escobar who makes the catch. 1 away. Here's our Levin Furniture player profile. Or managing profile. He was a player at one time, but he's certainly garnered much more notoriety for his stint as manager, first in Milwaukee, because of the circumstances in which he was let go with, what was it, 12 games to go in the season?
Yes. Yep, and they were heading to the playoffs.
But he's bounced back here in Kansas City. He's done a tremendous job with a very young team. And last year, by all accounts, Yost did an about face in the postseason from a personality standpoint. He had been somewhat reticent with the media, maybe a bit cool and distant in dealing with the writers and reporters in and around the Royals ball club, but they said, the folks who cover the team that are there on an everyday basis, when they won that wild card game, he was a different person. And in the postseason after that, he did all of the interviews, took all of the media requests, and in a lot of ways, he took the pressure off the players by sort of being the go-to guy for the media. And whether it was calculated or just something that he grew into, it worked out perfectly for Kansas City.
Well, they had a great postseason. Even though it ended with a loss, they really did have a nice run through the playoffs. And, it's a different ball club. I think the whole organization took on a different, outlook or face how they believe in what they do and how they go about things.
It's changed the culture of the entire organization. The ball's going to drop because Escobar lost that one in the sun. He caught the ball on the right side of the infield, but this one on the left side, you could see, Rick, when he went into that low crouch, he had no idea where the ball was.
No, and he's got the sunglasses on, but you can only look straight up into that sun for so long. And he's trying to use his glove. You can see he's got it shaded. Now he loses the ball. He doesn't know where it's at. He's falling, and it's about a foot away. That's a lonely feeling when you're looking up there to that sunshine.
And Yan Gomes says, you know what, I'll take it. After I got hit by a pitch with the bases loaded to force in a run, I'll take that as a single. And the Indians have a 2-out base runner now for Giovanni Urshela. The other thing about Yost, in that game against Oakland, the wild card playoff game, it was Yost who made it clear to anybody who would listen, look, this isn't the playoffs. If we don't win this game, we're not in the playoffs. And what were they down, 3 runs in the 8th inning, 3 or 4?
Yeah, against John Lester.
And the story goes, the players came off the field getting ready to take their final at bat, or whatever it was, their second to last at bat, and they were firing their gloves into the bench saying, we're not going to lose to this team on this field on this night. And Ned Yost looked at him and said, okay, well then do something about it.
They did. They put their running shoes on is what they did against Lester.
Flip to second, inning-ending force. And after 3, it's Cleveland 2, Kansas City 0.
Don't want to miss when the Indians will take on the Twins. That'll be Friday, August 7th. Fans can enjoy $2 beer pregame in the right field district. Dollar Dogs and the annual Rock and Blast show presented by First Energy. Get your tickets at Indians.com.
Top of the order for Kansas City here in the fourth. Alcides Escobar to lead it off. There's a strike to even the count on 1-1. Kluber to this point, 22 out of the 31 pitches have been strikes. Two and two. And a foul back.
That's about all you can do right there. You're going to have to, if you're going to get a base hit off Kluber and it's going to be later in the count, you're going to have to foul off some two-strike pitches to stay alive. And I mean, Escobar did just to live for another pitch against Kluber. Sometimes that's hard to do against a good pitcher. They put you away.
Foul back. Oh, what a pick by Lindor, and the shortstop makes a good throw across to get him one away. That ball was scorched by Escobar. At first, I thought maybe Lindor would have a chance to catch it on the line drive, but he had to short hop it, making it a much more difficult play.
Yeah, but the hop is good. It wasn't an in-between hop. It was hit very hard. But that little quick short hop, he was right there. He thought he was going to catch it in the air, too.
Now with the shift on, Mike Moustakas the batter. You know, with their wins in the first two games of this series, Kansas City has pushed their road record to 7 games over 500 away from home this year. You wouldn't believe who the only other team in baseball is that is 7 games over 500 on the road.
Texas Rangers.
All right.
I was looking
nice talking to you.
I was looking at it earlier because I was looking at home records, and Texas has a worse home record than the Indians do. They've only won 16 games at home.
They're usually a monster at home.
And that's why I just looked at that earlier today, so I'm sorry I got it right.
Yeah, Texas 16-28 at home, but 31-24 on the road. Yeah, most teams in baseball, the old adage is you play 500 on the road, you win your games at home, that puts you where you want to be. And that's where most teams are hoping to be, around that 500 mark.
Yeah, and earlier in the year, there were a lot of teams that were better on the road, but, it takes its toll.
Right down Broadway for a strike, 2-2. Swing and a miss. Kluber got him to go chase one. And there are 2 down here in the fourth. Corey Kluber mowing them down as we take a look at our great clip of the game from last night. It's exactly what Trevor Bauer did for most of the evening.
That was his curveball. That was the bread and butter pitch for him last night. His fastball setting up the curveball. A lot of the strikeouts came on that. And And then actually, that curveball is the one that he got beat on, too, in the 9th inning by Hosmer.
Terry Francona said that's probably as good as we've seen Trevor Bauer pitch.
I agree. You know, like I said last night, it may be a loss, but I don't think he's pitched a better game since being over here as far as stuff goes and working quickly and throwing first pitch strikes and 0-2 counts. He was lights out.
It's weird to see a pitcher get the loss, go 9 innings, and really was never in any kind of trouble. I mean,
well, that's how cruel a game can be.
I mean, it's a goofy play that, you know, off the wall, bouncing Moss, can't make the play. They bloop one in with 2 outs to get their first run, and then a 2-out solo homer in the 9th is their other run. And that's the way it goes when you're scuffling. But today, Corey Kluber is the hot knife, and the Royals are butter through 4. STO Data Strong fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming telecast brought to you by T-Mobile. 2-0 Cleveland. We go to the bottom of the 4th. Michael Bourne to lead it off for the Tribe. Jeremy Guthrie has allowed 2 runs on 4 hits. Been a weird game, though, from where he's standing. He's hit 2 batters. One of them forced in a run. And the Indians' other run came on an odd play in which defensive interference was called, an error charged to Mike Moustakas, and Bourne came home on a sacrifice fly because of it. Pops up on the infield here, 1 down.
It was a weird inning. There was a leadoff double, and there was the interference as Moustakas tried to jump over Bourne, and he clipped him. So he was awarded third base, and then Kipnis was hit, bases loaded. There's your 1 run on the sac fly. Kipnis is picked off on a 3-2 count. And then Brantley makes the out, the final out, so the only 1 run across.
But still, the Indians' bases loaded woes continue. Those are the kind of opportunities you just kill for offensively.
Yeah, and they have more. So they have 13 sacrifice flies now with the bases loaded, and they have 10 hits. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, it was a 12 walks.
Oh, what a play by Guthrie. Flips out of his glove. Moustakas throws him out at first. Oh, my goodness. For the 2nd game in a row, Kansas City makes a crazy play defensively. That one made more out of self-defense by Guthrie than anything. But the way the ball slingshotted out of his glove, Moustakas was alertly right there to pick him up.
Yeah, go figure. He went right to the third baseman. He caught it in his glove, and he was just trying to protect himself, as you said, self-defense. He gets it. It's in the glove, and he flipped it back to third. That's he was in shock right there. But they get the 2nd out, so Holt taken from a base hit.
Not many 1-5-3 putouts. Curveball hit to center. Back goes Dyson. Still going back. He's at the wall, and he leaps up and makes the catch to end the inning. Fine defensive play by the speedy Gerard Dyson. Kipnis gave it a long ride, but he comes up empty. Your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough.
Uh-oh, now you're going to get a look at it from behind. Boy, I mean, you see how he just spun out of the way. He got his glove on it, and it was just, I'm sure, shocked it hit his glove, and it just flipped right out to Moustakas. He was lucky.
First pitch, strike to Eric Hosmer, who grounded to first his only time up. Kluber has not gone to a 3-ball count on any batter thus far. 8 outs on the ground, 1 through the air, and the 3 strikeouts. Here's the line drive. Base hit down the left field line. That'll head into the corner. And Hosmer will stroll into second base with a leadoff double, the first hit of the game for Kansas City. And no surprise, it comes off his bat.
Exactly. Continue his hitting streak, make it 12. But he started him off changeup, and there he just threw the fastball in the outside part of the plate. And they're playing Hosmer over, and he just stayed on it and lined it down the left field line. So that shows you that he is locked in. And you can see on the year, Eric Hosmer has 19 ribbies against the Indians. Cabrera only has 16.
Only. I like that. That's good.
Well, now you could say that he's insane. But Cabrera's hitting for a higher batting average, believe it or not.
Oh, and he'll be back in time to face the Indians the next time they meet.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Brad Ausmus saying he thinks he's going to miss less time than more. I think it was originally 6 to 8 weeks. He thinks it's going to be closer to 6 weeks.
Well, the way they're playing, they need him right now.
Still might not be enough, though.
That's true.
The way things are going for Detroit.
Yeah, that's true. They need some pitching.
To center field. Bourne.
Not going to get it done.
Makes the catch, and Hosmer holds one away. Speaking of Detroit, they trail Tampa 1-0. There being no hit into the 6th inning.
Well, let's see who's pitching for Tampa.
Let's send it out to Andre Knott right now in the district.
They Thanks, Matt, as Indians wrap up this homestand. Fans, don't forget, it's all right, we'll be back next Friday to take on the Minnesota Twins. We still only have 2 more Fridays left where you can get the $2 domestic beers down here at the corner. Great food, great activities, great place to come. The Kids Club, also awesome, as the Twins and the Yankees will come to Progressive Field when we return next Friday.
All right, thanks, Andre. Here's Omar Infante, struck out his first time up. And he waves at a pitch in the other batter's box. Bunt. Kluber backhands it. Going to be a tough play, and he won't have one at first.
I think he's smart to just hold on to it. Once he, I figured it was going to get by Kluber, but he was able to snag it. But the plant, stop, and throw with a guy heading to third base, it was wise to hold it because now you still have a double play in order. Pretty heads-up play by Infante because he has a tough time hitting Kluber.
Is he better off to let Urshela, who's charging in?
Maybe, but he wasn't sure he was going to get there, and I don't know if there was any communication or if Urshela could call him off. You know, it's one of those plays where if he could get to it, which he did, he was going to try to take it. So it's now 1st and 3rd and 1 out.
Paulo Orlando is 0 for 1.
But the thing there, as a pitcher, sometimes you want to try and get that out and you know, make a great play. Instead of making a stupid play, you hold on to it and make a good pitch to get a double play here and maybe get you out of the inning.
Strike is called, and Gomes looking the runner at third back, Hosmer.
See, watch this. Here comes Urshela. He had to break in. It might have been a better play because his momentum was coming that way, but I don't think he could call him off, or he did call him off. In that last bunt play there, Hosmer was surprised. He broke down the line when he saw him square around. Now he's got a chance to go for the punch out.
With 1st and 3rd and 1 out, the 0-2 pitch. Low. 1-2. High pop. This is going to get out of play. I don't think we got a chance to let folks know who may not be aware that heard our comments earlier. Tampa Bay and Detroit. That's Chris Archer for the Rays against Justin Verlander for Detroit. 1-0 Tampa. They're in the 5th. Tigers without a hit to this point. This Kansas City ball club's going for a showdown north of the border with the hard-hitting Toronto Blue Jays. 4-game series. 1-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Number 4 for Kluber. 2 down here in the 5th.
Boy, and it comes at the right time. He threw that slider and going to make him chase it. Bounced it, and he gets the swing and miss. There it is. Starts, looks like a strike. Goes down into the dirt. Gomes picks it. Nice pitch to get out number 2 and a chance to escape here.
I just love that angle we have when you can see the ball come out of his hand and you just see the spin. I mean, it's just impressive to see how
tight the
yeah,
RPMs.
Yes.
There's not many breaking balls better than his.
Just seems like this is obviously oversimplifying, but it just seems like he flicks his wrist and the ball tumbles out of his hand. 1-0. Out of play to the right. And that was just power pitching right here. Here it is.
Just threw it right
Boom.
by him.
Well, I can see where that's what would make him so hard to face. As a hitter, you start thinking slider, I got to get that slider, and all of a sudden, boom, four-seamer gets by you in a hurry.
Well, you can't, everything goes off his fastball. You can't let him. You got to hit his fastball. You can't take it.
The 1-2. Grounded right at Kipnis. Jason throws him out and the inning is over. Corey Kluber works around the Royals' first 2 hits of the afternoon. Middle of the 5th, 2-0 Cleveland.
August 7th and 8th, you can celebrate the 10th anniversary of Rock and Blast both nights. It's presented by First Energy. Get your tickets at Indians.com.
We roll on to the bottom of the 5th. Indians up 2-0. Francisco Lindor to lead it off. He drove in the last run of this game with a sac fly in the 2nd inning. And he tries to bunt his way aboard here. Moustakas barehand grab and throw, and a great pick at first by Hosmer to get him one away.
Nice try, nice attempt, and a nice play on both ends by Moustakas, and then the nice pick by Hosmer. But I like that leadoff man trying to get on. You can see Lindor getting down the line, and watch the pick on the back end. Good play to get him.
And a strike is called. And it hit him. Well, we keep going back and forth with this. Now, warnings had been issued, which is why Terry Francona is coming out.
Well, he's going to come out and say, why not throw him out? The warning was issued. Next batter hit. He's going to say, I didn't feel like he was throwing at him, like they always do when they issue the warnings early in the game. Yeah, he's going to throw him out because he's wrong.
The crew chief, Gary Cederstrom, is intervening
on kidding.
Tom Woodring's behalf, who threw Terry Francona out of the game. And Terry Francona tells Gary, like, I want to get this straight.
Yes, he does. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. He shouldn't come in. He should have to explain himself why he's not throwing him out of the ball game. Issues were the warning was issued.
None of this ever makes any sense. You issue warnings, and then he throws one right at Brantley.
All right, there. Now watch. He comes out. Watch the warnings. Okay, we're going to stop this right now. Everybody's warned. You are warned, and but both benches are warned. All right, you're warned for what? Next guy that gets hit, you're out of the ball game, right? Well, here it is. Down in the leg. Okay, take your base. Nothing happens. Then why were they warned in the first place?
That's what I said. Do they have supernatural power so that they can determine intent?
Well, that's obviously what it is. It's in their intent. Oh, he wasn't throwing at him intentionally. Well, how do you know he was throwing at Kipnis intentionally?
39th career ejection for Francona, third time this year.
In Guthrie's defense, he's been pitching inside all day long. You know, he's been in, and when you miss inside. That one was down low. It got Brantley on the leg. Now,
well, I mean, this is like a dog chasing his tail to a certain degree as Santana hits a routine fly ball to center field. I guess my point is this, and I tend to agree with you. I don't think Guthrie was throwing at Brantley. But now, because Brantley's been hit, if Kluber comes out and hits somebody, then the umpire's going to say, oh, he definitely was intending to hit him, and he's going to get the heave.
Well, I would love to see that happen and see what happens. To me, that's where a lot of umpires, early in a game, they start issuing warnings. And we did that the other night in our game when Anderson hit Dyson. Both benches were warned. And I don't think, whether he hit him on purpose or not, it doesn't matter. It was down in the legs. It was, it was no big deal. Kansas City should have an opportunity to pitch inside. And if they hit somebody, they shouldn't be thrown out. They just sometimes little too aggressive early in a ball game. No one's throwing at anybody's head.
Pitches outside to Moss. Moss sends a high fly ball to left field. Orlando over near the line, makes the catch to end the inning. 5 complete. Cleveland 2, Kansas City nothing. Our in-game recap brought to you by your Toyota dealers. Indians scored first in the first. Yan Gomes hit by a pitch with the bases loaded. Indians led it 1-0. In the second, Francisco Lindor drove home a run with the bases loaded on a sac fly, and that has been it. Corey Kluber has been tremendous. He was perfect through the first 4, gave up 2 hits in the 5th, but still worked around it, and has shut the Royals out now through 5. Gerard Dyson, a ground out in the 3rd. Again, Kluber's off the mound. He'll take it himself.
Why not? Save the throw.
AT&T U-verse rewind. There was a runner at second with 1 out. Kluber off the mound, no play. So first and third, 1 down in a 2-0 game. He gets Paulo Orlando to chase, and Butera to ground out to get out of the jam.
Yeah, pitched his way right around that.
Swinging a fly ball to center. Bourne is there. Escobar is out number 2.
Boy, you got to love these quick innings because that's going to keep them around a lot longer.
Time now for a Mazda game break. Let's quickly go to Al Pawlowski.
All right, Matt, Rick, let's head down to St. Petersburg. Rays taking on the Tigers. The only run of the game this far. As Drupal Cabrera, his 6th homer of the year, a solo shot in the 5th. That's been it. 1-0 Rays. It's Archer against Verlander. They're in the 7th. Guys?
Now, Archer's been perfect. Verlander's given up that hit, and that's been it for the game.
Wow.
That's some serious
one
pitching
hit,
right
it's
there.
1-0.
Yeah.
Well, Verlander pitched well in his last start in Boston.
Remember, he got bombed before that.
Yeah, he got rocked the start before that. He pitched well in Boston, and looks like he's doing it again today.
.2-0 pitch to Mike Moustakas is a strike over the outside edge. He has grounded out and he has struck out today. Jose Iglesias just connected for a hit for Detroit. That takes care of the perfect game for Chris Archer. Moustakas shoots one to left field. A line drive, base hit.
That's a good swing. Stayed away with it, and he just slapped it to left. That's his first hit. Only the 3rd hit for the Royals. He went with that backdoor slider. A lot of times left-handers give up on it. Moustakas stayed on that one and did what you had to do if you want to hit that pitch, and that's go to left field with it. You try to pull it, you roll over on it, and hit a little weak grounder. And Kluber has had his share of groundouts today, 10.
See if he can get that double play ground ball. Oh, he doesn't need one.
No.
Let's save it for next inning. Pitch outside to Morales, who has twice grounded out.
Now, listen, you want this out here so you can keep Hosmer leading off. Kind of series he's having, and as locked in as he is, you want to face him with nobody on base. No opportunities to drive in a run.
How about 51 out of 71 pitches for strikes for Corey Kluber?
Well, that's exactly what Bauer did last night, was pound the strike zone. Kluber coming right back and doing it again.
But you have to pound it with quality strikes, because this lineup will eat you alive if you just try to find the heart of the plate.
No, you're right. It's not just throwing it down the middle for strikes. It's quality strikes.
And they may not be pitches that are in the strike zone, but when you pitch ahead, you get swings, you get chases. You can go to work.
You expand zones, strike zones on a lot of good hitters. They have to go at you defensively instead of being aggressive and taking some very good pitches. Especially when you start going through the third, and even if you're even around the game for the fourth time. That's a rarity nowadays, where you go 4 times through.
Yeah, the 2-2. Swing and a miss. Kluber strikes him out. That's a half dozen Ks for Corey. And shutout baseball through 6 for the Cy Young Award winner. Earlier, it's time for our Data Strong fan photo of the game. Tweet your fan photo to hashtag STO Data Strong Fan for a chance to be featured in one of our telecasts, brought to you by T-Mobile. Yan Gomes looks, it's up high, ball 1. Tried to hold up, but he went around. A warm afternoon, 88 degrees at game time. Series finale, homestand coming to an end. Indians looking for their first win on the homestand. In fact, their first win at home since July the 10th. Swinging a foul tip, held on. Gomes strikes out, one down here in the 6th. Injury report brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Ryan Zimmerman, Jason Worth coming off the DL. Anthony Rendon also, huh? Wow, first time they've all been together. There's a long fly ball deep left field. Giovanni Urshela sends one to the bleachers and left, and the Indians' lead is 3-0. His third home run of the season, 15th given up by Jeremy Guthrie this year. Boy, Rick, he jumped on that, and it soared out of here in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, you get aggressive on that first pitch. Get something you like. He put a good swing on it. In one swing comes one run. Let's see what the pitch is. Boy, that was flat. They were looking for something down and away. I think it was a slider.
Yeah.
It stayed up. It was a flat pitch, but he crushed it. So it's a 3-0 game now.
Michael Bourne doubled and scored in the 2nd. You know, I mentioned it before when Urshela came up the first time. He's quietly put together this hit streak, now 8 straight. Bourne swinging the bat well here. That's his 4th hit in the series, last 2 days. Something about Urshela, though, Rick, he's just sneaky. You know, he's very smooth, very relaxed, under control, and then you look up and say, oh, he's got to hit in 8 straight games.
Well, he's hitting down in the bottom part of the lineup, and there hasn't been a lot of pressure or things you have to do. So you fly under the radar. Yeah. There's not a bad thing with it. He does the same thing at third base, just makes every single play when he's out there.
Tyler Holt 0 for 2. Takes a strike. Holt got the call up with David Murphy being traded yesterday. And a foul ball right at the plate. Holt shoots the hole on the right side of the infield, and Bourne stops at second base. So Tyler with his first hit of the afternoon. 3 straight hits in the inning for Cleveland.
Well, and it looks like Kansas City's bullpen may get somebody up to start getting loose. That ball's elevated, and it looks like Guthrie may be out of gas. But Holt takes it the other way, so 3 consecutive hits, first and second, just the one out, back up to the top of the lineup.
These guys are tremendously conditioned when it comes to where they're at physically. But you do wonder, we haven't had a lot of really hot weather like this. And do you sort of run out of gas maybe earlier on a day like this than normal?
He's thrown a lot of pitches. He's had to dodge a few bullets today. So, I don't think it's the weather as much as command. These guys are starting to get to him.
Right around 90 degrees at game time.
They have 7 hits. They've had opportunities. They've left 6 stranded. He hit a couple of guys, and that's what I'm saying. They got right here a little redemption if you want to get back to him. Morales up, throwing for the Royals.
Kipnis bloops one left center field. That's a base hit. Bourne coming around third. He'll be waved home. Orlando's throw goes to third. Not in time there. Bourne scoring on the RBI single by Jason Kipnis. 4-0 Cleveland. And Tyler Holt went first to third on that base hit to left field. So Indians still at the corners with only 1 out.
Well, I think both guys on base got a good read off this ball that it was going to drop as soon as it left. Bourne certainly did. See, he didn't hesitate. He scores easily. And I think Holt should have got the same read on first base. He probably had a better look at it. So he goes first to third. 4 consecutive hits. They make it a 4-0 game. And this is something the Indians haven't seen in a long time. 4 runs.
Well, in a multi-run inning with 2 runs home. And Francisco Lindor to the plate. He drove in a run on the second with a sac fly.
He had the long first inning, then pretty much reeled it in after that.
Missed outside, 1-1. Showed bunt, took a ball down in the dirt, 2-1. Well, after Jose Iglesias broke up the perfect game by Chris Archer, J.D. Martinez and Nick Castellanos followed with RBI singles, and the Tigers lead Tampa 2-1 now in the 7th. Lindor with a long fly ball deep right field near the line. It is gone to Souvenir City. Francisco Lindor, his second 3-run homer of the series. And the Indians jump on Guthrie for a 5 spot here in the 6th. Lindor hit a 3-run homer in the series opener off Joe Blanton, and now a 3-run shot off Jeremy Guthrie here today in inning number 6.
Wow, he's been exciting to watch, man. He's been hot since the All-Star break. This will be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. He knew he had enough of it right down the line. He had a chance to watch it. So he caps off a 5-run inning with a 3-run homer. And the Indians are doing something they've been wanting to do for a long time.
Curveball into Brantley for a strike.
Pair of home runs in the inning, too, by both the kids. Urshela, Lindor.
And just as they did 2 starts ago, the Indians showering Corey Kluber with support today. Brantley spins out of the way. You hit him again, there's going to be some action. You can hear it down in the dugout. Now the 2-2. Brantley fouls it back. Now the 2-2. And Brantley shoots it into the Kansas City dugout. Still only one out in the inning. And the 2-2 to Brantley. Another foul back.
Five straight hits. 2 homers, 3 singles.
Biggest inning for the Tribe in 2 months. Now the 2-2. Brantley shoots one to deep right field. That baby's gone and it's not coming back. Michael Brantley with his 8th home run of the year. Back-to-back jacks for the Tribe here in the 6th inning, and it's a 6th spot for Cleveland. What an at-bat for Brantley. You talk about grinding your way through an AB. Fouled off pitch after pitch after pitch, and finally got one to handle and smoked it. And in the process, he knocks Jeremy Guthrie out of the ballgame.
Well, I told you, 2 of these guys wanted to get him. That one was down and in, and Brantley just turned on it and smoked it. I mean, he went down and got it. That got out of here in a hurry, and he posed. And Michael never does that, but he was hurt. He was hit by a pitch earlier. Kipnis was. He had an RBI in the inning, so those guys got even. And the Tribe leads it now 8-zip.
Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen. I believe it's the left-hander Franklin Morales who's coming on. We'll let you know when we come back. Solo homer by Giovanni Urshela. Came with 1 out. He smoked one of the bleachers. Solo shot, 3-0. And Francisco Lindor clobbered a 3-run homer. And Michael Brantley, the next man up, a solo smash. A 6 spot in the 6th for Cleveland. And now Franklin Morales turns Santana around and delivers high ball 1. High pop. I'm back out of play. Right back to the screen.
This inning started with a strikeout of Yan Gomes. And then 6 hits later, 3 singles, 3 homers. 8-0 ball game.
This is a team that's had games where they haven't had 6 hits, let alone 6 in a row in one inning.
I know.
But boy, is it nice to see. Because when you have a big inning, everybody is involved.
You see now everybody is relaxed, it seems like, and you know they went through that lineup. They're feeding off each other.
And Santana draws a walk. And the 9th man to bat in the inning will be Brandon Moss, who is 0 for 3 on the afternoon. Well, we're headed west after this ball game. Tribe will go to Oakland, California to take on the A's. Carlos Carrasco will go for the Tribe. Former Akron Zip Chris Bassett goes for Oakland. Our coverage begins at 9:30 with Indians Live, and the first pitch is at 10 o'clock right here on Sports Time Ohio. Moss cuts and misses, and a count 0-2. He strikes out, 2 down. And it comes back to Yan Gomes, who struck out to start the inning.
Gomes got it started today in the first inning. Bases loaded. He was down on the count 0-2, was hit by a pitch. Gets the RBI, and the Indians took a 1-0 lead.
And a foul back. Yeah, this game began with the sort of same old frustrations on offense that we've seen at least since the All-Star break, when we mentioned they'd scored 1 run or less 6 times in 11 games, and showed no signs of getting better. And then out of nowhere, this inning just happened.
It's nice. I mean, they need it. These guys have to relax. One inning is not going to get them out of it, but that's something they needed.
It was a solo homer by that guy, and then 3 straight singles by Bourne, Holt, and Kipnis. And then the big blast by Lindor, a 3-run shot. Brantley followed with a solo homer. Gomes strikes out. The inning is over. 6 in the 6th for Cleveland. 3 home runs in the frame. And the Indians are rolling 8-0. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. The Indians are on top 8-0 as we roll now to the 7th inning. And Corey Kluber pitching a gem. 3-hit shutout baseball. Hosmer, a grounder right to third. Backhanded pick by Urshela, and he throws him out by a half step. 1 away. I think the kid's going to be all right down there.
Well, I'll tell you, he got a base hit going that way the last time, and he tries to jump on that first pitch. Defense aligned perfectly. Make the backhanded play to throw to first base. They retire him. Yeah, Kluber, total cruise control today. He has commanded his pitches so well, as he usually does. Rarely do you see him out of sorts, out of whack. He's normally in rhythm, pounds the strike zone. His only problem is run support. It hasn't been today.
Not twice in the last
2 out of the
starts.
last 3, right? And you know what? They don't have to get 8 every time, but I'm not complaining. Nor is he.
Spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Give me 4 one, 4 another. He doesn't care as long as he gets them.
Alex Rios looks at a ball low. 2-0. Popped foul. That'll find the seats. Kluber's 2-1 offering. Checked his swing, didn't go. And it's 3-1. Rios called out on strikes in the 2nd inning. Fly to center in the 5th. Rios off the end of the bat. Right center field, Moss over and makes the catch. 2 down.
Well, let's get a little closer look at Kluber this afternoon with the cutter. He's had a lot of ground ball work, which is always good. Pitching ahead in the count. You know, only 5 strikeouts to this point, which is not a bad thing. I like when he has a 5-pitch inning like he has today. It keeps him around longer. Right now, we're in the top half of the 7th inning with 2 outs, so 6 2/3. He's thrown 81 pitches. No walks.
To center field, Bourne. Kevin Hart can't get to it. He'll let it drop for a base hit.
Well, download MLB's free ballpark app to unlock special offers, including merchandise discounts. The app also lets fans purchase tickets, transfer tickets to friends, and more. Visit Indians.com/ballpark-app.
Get a pinch runner, it looks like, down at first. Cuthbert running. For Infante. Paulo Orlando. Takes inside ball 1. The 1-0 delivery from Kluber. Popped him up. Santana calls for it, makes the basket catch, and ends the inning. Time now for the 7th inning stretch. Brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care, coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. A lot of fun today. 8-0 with a 6-run sixth inning, highlighting the action today for the Indians. The big ball returning to Progressive Field. 3 home runs in that sixth inning for Cleveland. Chelsea Cuthbert, who pinch ran, stays in at second base. And Giovanni Urshela, who started the fireworks in the sixth inning with a solo homer, his third of the year, leads off here in the bottom of the seventh. Ground ball to short. 1 away. We'll bring up Michael Bourne. Who knows what tomorrow may bring? But if Michael Bourne can continue this kind of productivity, it sure makes things a lot easier.
Well, 2 hits last night, 3 hits today with that swing right there. So he doubled, scored in his first at bat. He singled, scored in his third at bat. Then he gets a base hit there. That was the line drive double off of Guthrie. A fastball that was right there. This one stays the other way. A base hit, as does his last one. That's way to go. This one off the left-hander. You like that there. So the Indians with 11 hits now. Bourne with 3 of them.
Tyler Holt, really nice piece of hitting his last time up. He punched a single through the hole on the right side. It helped keep that inning rolling. Chopped to third. Moustakas to second for 1 on to first. They will not turn the double play. There are 2 down in the inning. As promised earlier, it's Miller time. Brought to you by Miller Lite. Let's go back to that 6th inning. Urshela started it with a solo homer to left. Kipnis with an RBI single to left. Lindor went the other way, right field for a 3-run jab. And then Brantley followed that with a solo smash. $19,767 attendance here this afternoon. I think some of them that were out maybe in the bleachers have headed for shelter from the sun, as it's a hot one out there in the bleachers today. Kipnis yanks one to right field, another hit. His 3rd straight 3-hit game. Coming around third, Holt slams on the brakes.
How about that?
A double for Kipnis, his 31st that leads the league in that category on the year.
A hit machine, this guy. Unbelievable.
That also, Rick, gives him 38. He's already, he had it last game, but 38 multi-hit games now, only 2 behind Fielder in that category. He's improved on 2 more categories that he led the league in: home batting average and average against right-handed pitching. So he's just been tearing it up. And this hit in this inning comes off the lefty, which he has more than held his own against left-handed pitching all season long. 15th 3-hit game on the year. He leads that category as well. That ball got away briefly from Butera. Back out of play. Pulls it foul.
Indians head to the airport after today's game. 4-game series in Oakland starting tomorrow night. Head on to L.A., play the Angels for the very first time this year. Oakland did come to Cleveland right before the All-Star break.
That'll end the inning. Indians threaten but do not add to their lead. 8-0 as we head to the 8th. Transmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Well, Corey Kluber has just been fantastic. He very much, not that he hasn't at other times, but today in particular, he looks like the Cy Young Award winner that we saw pitch every 5 days last season. I mean, where it's just, you can watch him and just say the other team really didn't have much of a chance. Pop back towards us and just above our head.
Well, Kluber's been consistent anyway. You'll look at it. His record's not the same, and people talk about it. He may not have been as good as he was last year, but I'll tell you what, he's not far off. This year it seems like occasionally teams will get a hit when needed, or he had a chance to get out of the inning and he wasn't able to do it. But the only difference is that I think teams are getting more aggressive early in the count on him. He may be giving up a few more hits, but he's a tough competitor.
Yes, he is.
He doesn't change.
Gerard Dyson takes a strike. Let's go down to Andre Knott. I mean, boy, this club, who knows where it was headed the way things have been going lately, but a A performance like this has to raise everybody's spirits.
Absolutely raises the spirit. Before the game, Terry Francona talked about where this team is at now, especially with David Murphy being traded away yesterday. And he says, as an organization, it's time to find out a lot of things about people and players. And it's not about discounting wins, but about finding out who people truly are and what they're really about. I think a day like today, it shows you this team isn't giving in because of their record.
Well, and you know what? And to your point, Andre, Rick and I were talking about this before the game. And baseball is one of those games, I think, because it is every day, because there's no, well, we've got 4 days to get ready for the next opponent, or we can, take a few days to put the game plan in. You've got to pick up the pieces and go the very next day. It's a game that does test you mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, yes, and nobody feels sorry for you. No one cares how many you've lost in a row or how many you've won in a row. It's a game where you have to go out and fight every day. And, I mean, you've got to win that day. And then you quickly come back and you have to do it again tomorrow. But, boy, this has been one rough homestand for them. But it's ending on a very good note before they head out on the road, and that's something they needed. They needed a pick-me-up, man. It's tough when you go a week without winning a ball game.
Left field. Holt comes in to make the catch, 2 down. Was it too long ago for you to recall an 8-game home losing streak in 1975? I mean, I know it was your rookie year.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
You don't remember it being like the end of the world or anything of that nature?
No. There's never the end of the world. Even if you, I played on a team that had a 10-game winning streak in one year and also a 10-game losing streak in the same year. It's, yes, the emotions that I went through, I don't know. The only thing I know, when you told me, I wouldn't have known. They say 1975. Well, it was in 1975, June 8th, from what they have in the notes. I would have been like Urshela and Lindor, because I just got called up May 23rd that year. So, I mean, I'd only been there 2 weeks, and we're on a 8-game home losing streak. What did I care? I'm in the big leagues. I didn't care. I was just out trying to do my best. I didn't know any better. That's maybe why I don't remember it.
And I'm also guessing, press notes, media information, it was a lot different.
It's totally different.
I'm sure nobody even brought it up. Guys, you haven't lost this many at home since.
Right. There's nothing like that. It's crazy. They got stats for everything now. It's absurd.
1, 2, 3 on 10 pitches. Corey Kluber continues to cut them down.
Night 2 will be on August 8th. It's presented by First Energy, and all fans can get a Michael Brantley bobblehead, which is courtesy of Progressive. Visit Indians.com for the details.
Luke Hochevar coming on to pitch here in the bottom of the 8th for Kansas City. Michael Brantley will lead it off for the Tribe. 1 for 3, homered his last time up. Brantley was hit by a pitch in the 5th inning. This came after both teams and benches had been warned. How did he respond?
Well, he woke up,
baby.
Well, he threw down. I mean, that one he hit him with was down at his legs. This one was just had the plate, and Michael smoked a home run to right. A little redemption. There you go.
Nice running catch. No, he can't hold on to it, and it's a fair ball. Bourne is going to hold at first base. Boy, it looked like the catch was going to be made by Moustakas. He had leather on it.
Awfully tough play. Watch him. He's running with his back to the infield. He got there is one thing. But on the dead run, it's not so easy to catch a ball with your back to the infield. You're looking up. It's sunny. You know, there's some clouds up there. And catch it on the dead run. That's a tough, tough play, but Brantley doesn't mind. He wants the base hit. If he would have caught that ball, that would have been a really good play.
Swing and a miss by Santana. Carlos 0 for 2 is walked twice. Up and in. Brantley aboard here in the bottom of the 8th, and the 1-2 from Hochevar. That's fouled up the first base side.
Here's a guy that went from the starting rotation for the Royals into the bullpen, and before he had the surgery, Tommy John, he was lights out. I mean, what a terrific year. He added velocity to the fastball. He was their number one pick in the draft, and was a starter for many years. And now they figured when he comes back and he's healthy, he's going to add to this bullpen to go along with Davis and the rest of the boys, Herrera. And then they get a guy like Ryan Madsen, as you say, found money. You know, he comes in there. Boy, that is certainly the strength of this team, is that bullpen. Some great arms. And they're not matchup guys either.
Hit to deep left center field. Dyson, a long run. He won't get it. It short hops the wall, hit right at the base, actually. And Brantley will stop at third on a long double by Carlos Santana.
What do you know? I hope Carlos realizes there are a lot of hits to center field and left center. He's had a couple of good swings this homestand going that way. When you get the ball out over the plate, stay on it, drive it that way. He does it beautifully right there. He's just got to try and find a way to do that more consistently than he has. So the first 2 men aboard. That's 14 hits now.
And now a base hit in the center field by Brandon Moss. It plates Brantley. Here comes Santana. Whew. 10-0, Cleveland.
Well, and if anybody needed a hit with runners in scoring position, it's Brandon Moss. Boy, and you know, this looks like it's a blowout. It's a meaningless game, which it probably is right now because they're going to win it. But for this guy, he needed a hit with runners in scoring position, man, that he can hang his hat on. A curveball, stayed on it, up the middle, drives in a pair, gives him 50 on the year. But, boy, you need it badly sometimes, and Moss gets it.
Yeah, the way things have been going for a lot of these hitters, it doesn't matter what point in the game, it doesn't matter who it's off of. They just need something positive to say.
Exactly.
Hey,
you know how many times you talk about you got to try to take something positive out of each day, whether you win or you lose. And you know, even though this is a win and it's a rout, and they haven't had many of these games at all this year, Moss needed that right there.
Gomes a drive to deep left field, way back. Goodbye to the home run porch. Yan Gomes with the Indians' 4th home run of the afternoon. A 2-run blast. A 4-run 8th inning. 12-0 Cleveland.
I think it's safe to say they relaxed a little bit. There again, it's 4 straight hits. They had 6 straight hits back in the 6th inning. Gomes gets a ball down in his nitro zone. He hits his 5th homer. Give him a couple more RBIs. He has 3 on the day. And this one has turned into a laugher. 4th home run for the Tribe.
Well, they needed to take out some frustration. I think it's safe to say they've done it here this afternoon.
Yeah, they need to do it for about a week straight. Still nobody out.
Urshela takes. Urshela shoots one out of play to the right. You know, Rick, by all accounts, the people I spoke to, Luke Hochevar was back, you know, from the Tommy John and everything. You know, he's had some outings recently where he was throwing 95 and putting it on the black, locating it. But I would imagine, look, we've seen it enough with Indians players. As Moustakas tries to make a play and can't. It was just perfectly placed by Urshela. And the Indians are finally having one of those days where everything they hit finds the perfect hole, the perfect spot. And they're having all the laughs in their dugout. But, you know, with guys like Tommy John, you might have it a game, you might have it a game here or there, might put it together for a few, but it's not quite all the way back.
Right.
It takes time.
Sure it does. Understandable. Especially, and then when you come into a game like this, it's almost like you're in a no-win situation because they're free and easy now. It's nice to see they relax.
And look, too, with Kansas City, they have plenty of options and pieces in that bullpen where they don't have to really lean on Hochevar.
Right. They can work him back at his time.
It's not like they were like, we're waiting for him to come back. He's back, and now all the pressure's on him to go out and be the guy he was. You know, they can kind of ease him into it and put him into spots where all of the pressure isn't squarely on his shoulders. He did not go on the appeal. I mean, he was the #1 pick in the draft. The guy's had enormous expectations on him, and it's not that he doesn't have the arm and the ability. Just didn't quite have it as a starter. And granted, that's probably a huge understatement for anybody who's watched a lot of Royals baseball. We remember the game just a few years ago. It was the Royals home opener. They had high hopes, and the Indians went in and smacked Hochevar with 7 runs in the first inning.
It was their home opener that year. He gave up 6 runs, I think, in the first, 7 in the first.
Bourne yanks another hit. Right center field. Urshela stops at second base. Michael Bourne with a 4-hit afternoon. And a season high 18 hits for the Indians.
There's the breaking ball. Bourne kept his hands back nicely. Strokes it into right center field. Second time in the ball game they've had 6 consecutive hits. They did in the 6th inning. They do it here in the 8th inning. There is still nobody out.
Yeah, and there's still nobody up in the Kansas City bullpen.
Well,
which
that's
surprises
yours, big
me.
boy. You got to get some outs. That's yours. You talk about they got to find some rest for the bullpen. Well, they're getting it today.
This is called "You're going to wear it, pal." And Tyler Holt checks on a ball outside. Fouled right back. Two on, nobody out, and Hochevar checks the runners. The 1-1 pitch, and a foul back. Steps off, checks that runner at second base. That's Urshela. Tyler Holt singled and scored in the 6th. And out goes Butera. Mentioned earlier about Ned Yost that last year he became sort of a media darling, if you will, in the postseason. Kind of came out of his shell. Supposedly, according to those who know him best, he's got a wicked sense of humor. So he shares property with Jeff Foxworthy down in Atlanta in the Georgia area. And Jeff Foxworthy says he's the funniest guy he knows.
Foxworthy said that?
Imagine that, yeah. Tyler Holt.
If I was a redneck, I'd
hold out on strikes, 1 away. Well, these are some fun numbers to look at. Look at that. 3 hits by Kipnis, 4 for Michael Bourne. And look at all the big ball home runs. Lindor, Brantley, Gomes, Urshela.
Well, it's been in there bubbling. It's just a matter of when it was going to come out, and it happens to be today.
Meanwhile, here's Jason Kipnis. Just another 3-hit game. 9 for 12 in the series. He's driven in runs with each of his last 2 hits. Up and away. It's 2-0. There's a strike. And the 2-1. Swing and a miss to even it up. Two on, one out. Tribe up 12-0 here this afternoon, and now the 2-2. And a foul right back. You know, the other thing about Ned Yost, another one of his really good friends at one time was Dale Earnhardt. And back in 1994, when we had the strike,
right,
everybody went home. You know, baseball guys, you're not used to having time in the middle of August into September. What do you do with yourself? Well, Ned Yost called up his buddy, Dale Earnhardt Sr. at the time. Broken bat, foul, and Earnhardt said, you know what? Why don't you come down and work on the pit crew with me? Ride out the season, see what happens. So Ned Yost became a member of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s pit crew. He was a hydration engineer.
Bring him water?
His job was to hold that long, skinny pole over the wall and stick it into the window of the car. And first time he did it, he was shaking so bad he dumped it right in Dale's lap.
Engineer, hydration engineer. That's a good way to put it.
That's right.
Didn't have to go to school to become the engineer. But
bottom line is Earnhardt won the Cup that year.
Did he really? Wow, that was fun time spent.
And the one thing, the story I guess that he's told is that he learned quickly. Earnhardt had a race where he was like 17th, drove like crazy, got all the way up, finished second. And Ned went afterwards and said, man, that was great racing. And Earnhardt glared at him. He said, I lost. Don't ever settle for second. Fouled back. And he said, you know, you learn something being around people like that are so driven. And I'm sure that was probably part of Ned Yost's message to his club. Look, last year was a great season, but don't settle for being second best. And the way they've played this year, I think they got the message loud and clear.
Well, that hunger was there, I guarantee, from last year, how they finished. And it could be a carryover.
The 2-2. Kipnis takes a little bit outside, full count. You have to love the way that Kipnis has played, has maintained his grit and determination, even through the tough times.
Yeah, there's times where you're right. You can get down.
But even when things, if you want to call this rock bottom coming into today, having lost 6 in a row overall and 8 straight at home and really being drubbed in a number of those games by the White Sox, by Kansas City. But he's continued to do his part, whether it's with the base hits, trying to steal a base, play good defense.
Well, that's where you see a lot of times when you're struggling as a team, and the Indians have been, when you're down low, the guys that pick you up, the guys that they don't feel sorry for themselves, you got to go out there and play every single day and play it hard.
Dyson runs it down in center field, 2 down here in the 8th. Pat O'Brien Chevrolet play of the game back in that 6th inning. The second of 3 home runs hit in that inning by the Indians. A 3-runner by Lindor, his second 3-run homer in the series. He has 4 ribbies on the afternoon. You know, I said it before when he hit the 3-run homer the other night. He doesn't project when you look at him as a big power guy, but he's got pretty good bat quickness. And, you know, in the next few years, he's going to physically fill out that frame. Who knows what kind of player he's eventually going to grow into. Inning comes to an end. 4 more for Cleveland. Another homer, this one by Yan Gomes. A dozen for the Tribe this afternoon.
Score correctly. 12-0 Indians over the Royals. Welcome back. Along with Jensen Lewis, I'm Al Pulowski. We'll have Indians live for you after the ball game here today. Jensen, this club, Corey Kluber, great day on the mound. He's coming back out in the ninth. And the offense, everything's come together.
I talked to you on the pregame show. They needed a crooked number at some point today. They got 6 in the 6th, 4 in the 8th. 12 runs they've scored last time they did that, May 27th this year. Corey Kluber coming in, 43 runs of support the entire year. He's gotten 12 today.
Let's see if he can get the complete game. We'll send it back upstairs to Matt and Rick. Join us for Indians Live, brought to you by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care right after this one, guys.
No balls, 1 strike to count on Mike Moustakas, who is 1 for 3 on the afternoon. He had a base hit in the 6th inning. Corey Kluber trying to go the distance here this afternoon. Lifted high and foul out of play. Did that make it over the dugout, or did it go right into it?
It actually went right into the dugout. I don't know if it hit something and went in there, but it was in the dugout.
Sarby over there with those good hands, keeping everybody safe. Kluber's 1-2, yanked, foul.
Yes.
Check, did it go? He went, says home plate umpire Tom Woodring. And that'll give Kluber a half dozen strikeouts here this afternoon, 1 down in the 9th. Looking back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Beware of the Haas. He was huge in the series. Today, he was simply mortal. And the Indians offensively blew it out today. Kendry Morales 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Special thanks today to our statistician Jeff Gears, filling in big shoes for Tom Boschenik.
Don, he's turning red.
Clown shoes he had to fill. The 2-0 is a little bit high. 3 balls, no strikes.
I don't know how he did it with just one pen. He didn't have a set of crayons today.
There's more than one way to write a stat down. 3-0 pitch. Wow, a 4-pitch walk. I think that's the first walk issued by Kluber this afternoon. Mickey Callaway will get the bullpen up. Kluber just over 100 pitches, but with a 12-0 lead, they don't want to unnecessarily leave him out there if he shows signs of fatigue now. And I don't even think that would be it. It's just he's had a lot of time to sit in the dugout. Thankfully, he's not complaining. But sometimes it's a little harder to stay sharp when you have that much time between innings. He hasn't had a lot of practice at it this year.
Yeah, right. He's been usually up and down.
He continues to miss outside with these first 2 left-handed bats.
Let's see if he can lock it back in, make his pitch, and get a double play to end the game.
Off the end of the bat. Boy, he had Hosmer fooled. And it's 1-2. Hosmer smacks it into center field. Bourne cuts it off. And Morales lumbers into third base as Hosmer has his second hit of the afternoon, both doubles. And so second and third with 1 out now for Alex Rios. And here comes Mickey Callaway out to the mound.
Well, Hosmer with a couple of doubles today. That figures with him. It's Cody Allen that's up in the Indians bullpen. He hasn't worked in a while, so. It's only 5 hits given up by Corey. You see that 5-pitch third inning. He's been 10 first, 10 seventh, 10 eighth. He has really been locked down, and he's into the ninth. That's why he can still go out there. Only 108 pitches to this point.
There he gets back on point with a strike to Rios. Rios was called out on strikes in the second. He flied to center in the fifth, flied to right in the seventh. Tigers held on to beat Tampa 2-1 down in St. Pete. That stops a 3-game skid for the Tigers. And it dumps Tampa Bay back to a game below 500 at 51-52. Most of the rest of the baseball schedule will be played later this evening. The 1-1 pitch to third. Urshela on a wicked hop, stays with it and throws him out. 2 down. Moustakas scores to foil the shutout, as Rios will get credited with his 16th RBI of the year.
Well, you talk about staying with a ground ball. That thing jumped up in his in the breadbasket. He came up with it. What a nice play.
One other game going on at Target Field in Minneapolis. Pirates lead the Twins 5-3. They're in the 6th inning. Minnesota trying to stop a 3-game losing streak in that one. Chelsea Cuthbert, the last hope for Kansas City, and he swings and chops one to third. Urshela sets and throws, got him, and the game is over. The Indians' 6-game losing streak is over. So is their 8-game home slide, as the Indians deliver a royal whipping to Kansas City this afternoon, winning it by a final score of 12-1. Corey Kluber gets the win. He is 6-11 now on the year, and what a job. The complete game effort from the Cy Young winner, allowing just the 1 run on 5 hits today. Jeremy Guthrie takes the loss for Kansas City. His record is now 7-7. Kansas City leaves town with still a very comfortable lead in the Central Division, mark of 61-39. They'll either lead by 8 or 9, depending on what happens with Minnesota. Cleveland goes to 46-54 on the year, and now the Tribe heads to the West Coast to open up a 4-game series tomorrow night against the Oakland Athletics.
Well, you can breathe a little easier today. That offense finally had a day that they've been waiting for. 4 home runs, 2 times in this ball game, 6 hits, 6 consecutive hits in an inning, 18 on the day. Something desperately needed. So it's a good way to end it, although it was a disappointing homestand overall. But I'll tell you what, they needed a win. They got it, 12-1 over the Royals, and it's time to go out west.
So the final score today is 12-1 Cleveland. We'll be back with some final thoughts right after this.